Corsa, bought 1 year old, and we're going to hear the story real fast.
Combustion chambers. I'm running 9 1/4 to 1 compression ratio, which is high. This is the first time I've run anything that high of a compression ratio with turbo.
Turbos would get a 7 to 1 compression ratio because the turbo builds all the
8 1/2 is what I usually run. But this particular engine I ran in this car, the basic engine was, like the block crankcase, this turbo, and all that was what I used originally when I set the record. But at that time it was on gasoline.
We'll get to that. Records in a minute.
There's a picture in there. You can see the.
This was a land speed record holder back in 1967 that he had bought.
I've heard about this. Yeah, you had the exhaust coming out the tail light.
Yeah.
I've seen this car.
Now, I don't remember that because I'm a little older than you, but I called him in 1981 when I won the tickets from that restaurant to go see this car, and here it is 33 years later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Here's a picture of the, it's in the magazine article too, but there's a letter from Zora Arcus Duntov.
Zora Arcus Duntov, Mr. Corvette.
Yeah, he sent me a letter.
Mr. Pryor was kind enough to let me see your letter and pictures. Let me congratulate you on your outstanding accomplishments. I'm aware of many Corvair past records, but yours is an exceptional one. I'm also surprised at your bravery to supercharge it to a 25 pounds PSI, as even 18 or 20 seems to be quite a high boost for this engine. My best wishes, Zora Arcus Duntov, dated April 18th, 1968. You'd owned the car 2 years at that point, running on gasoline, and you were blowing as much pressure as those cylinder heads and those studs could take.
Here's a picture of the engine. This is when Car Life magazine tested the car. I had a muffler on it. But see, I had 4-barrel carburetor.
Carter AVS?
Yeah.
Air valve secondary, or?
And then the stock 140 heads. It had a Isky cam. And it ran 167 miles an hour. I mean, 156 miles an hour.
157.8.
Yeah, 57.8.
That's a one-way, then you have to do a return run.
Yeah.
And there's the exhaust pipe through the tail light. I'd forgotten about that. Thank you for reminding me. See, it takes two to sort of put the story back together.
These tires are 27.5 inches in diameter. The big tires.
That's how you got up to
157. So I had to cut the fender wells a little bit to get those tires to clear.
A little trim, a little nibble here, a little nibble there.
But then these are dirt track tires from sprint cars. They used at Ascot. They're rib tires. They're like tractor tires, but they're rib tires, and they give you good traction on assault because the ribs kind of cut into the salt. And they're good for high speed. They go as high as 200 miles an hour. They're good, and that's what we used to use in those days.
Best one-way, 157.8 miles an hour.
No problem with making power out of the stock 140, like using 140 heads in a turbo. No power.
No, like I say, that's with a cam. They ran 156.
So I don't need to do this extra.
And then it ran 106.25 miles. Same setup.
106 miles an hour. Didn't blow a differential up. Pop in the clutch. How do you get off the line?
Blew the transmission.
What type of ETs were you running at
13, 40.
That's like
turbocharged.
Like 4-barrel carb pressurizing a manifold.
Muffler?
No, sucking through the carburetor. Same as the Corvair. Same as the Corvair, but with a little bit different big turbo.
With a muffler, and this was set up with a wastegate. There's a wastegate on it. Anyway, about 12 pounds boost. And I showed them how to test it, how to start the car, how to launch it. And they had the car for like 4 days.
This is Car Life magazine.
Yeah, they put about 450 miles on it.
Having a good time.
When they brought the car back, the tires were bald. Streaks on it. But, he made 3 passes. This is at Orange County International Raceway.
I think that's gone now, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, Bob Bondurant had a driving school there at the time. And when John McKibben, he was the technical editor for Car Life magazine, he was testing the car. And when he was on the track, there was another guy in a Corvette, 427 Corvette. And so John caught him. He wanted to race him, and the guy pulled off the course. He didn't want to race the Corvette.
They want to be embarrassed. There's a possibility. So now, this motor was done this way in 68.
67, yeah.
67, 68. And where did this propane-powered...
Well, I built this motor in 72 for my other car, my white car.
Another Corvair.
Yeah, I wanted to run it on propane because I had tested propane on this car in 71. I said, I'm going to go to Bonneville and run on propane. So I built another engine. This is the engine I built for the 72 car. And I ran the first run off the trailer at Bonneville, 150 miles an hour, right off the bat. And I had some problems that year, so I went back the second year with some changes. And I ran 164 miles an hour on a record run attempt. And on that record run, I had trouble refueling the tank. I have to siphon propane from one tank to another, and it's kind of tricky. You can't.
It's under pressure.
Yeah, it's under pressure. You're siphoning it. Well, there was a check valve in one of the tanks, and it stuck, and so I didn't get any fuel in the tank. So I went to make the run, and I just barely made it down the course. I was at 70 miles an hour. So on the return run, I got the tank filled up, and I made a complete pass at 164 miles an hour with this engine.
Just
From 1972.
1973 it was in that case, and this is the same engine, same everything. Except,
No oversized pulley.
No, same cooling system, same cams.
100
Yeah, it's if you
Thing have seatbelts?
yeah, it had a roll bar, everything was in it. That's
Now,
taking all that out.
Propane is not that uncommon. It's used in delivery vehicles
Oh,
and
yeah.
taxis, even back in the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
But you can't turn it off in the cold weather. You have to go back to gasoline because propane doesn't ignite, much like diesels don't like the cold weather.
Well, it'll work down to 0 or so, but it's not as effective in cold
Right,
weather.
it's gasoline. Yeah, I remember that because a buddy of mine, where I got those metallic brakes, ran taxis on propane, and the guys would forget to turn it off on propane on gasoline at night, run it for a minute, and slant 6 Chryslers. And the car wouldn't start in the morning. What does a taxi driver know?
Yeah.
They'd call up for a boost, turn it off on the gasoline, let it run on gas.
This is the water injection tank here. It's actually a pony keg beer tapper. We built this in '66, and we put this moon. This is a moon spin-off, knockoff.
Moon
And so
equipment
it's
company.
pressurized at 50 psi, and then the line comes over here, and this is a modulator.
That's even a Corvair hose clamp used on fuel return lines with a pressure retard.
Corvair hose
Yes,
hose
it
clamp.
is.
It's a Corvair pressure retard
Right.
housing, and then I use a Schrader valve here, tire valve that's modified, and then the boost signal comes into here, and it pushes the diaphragm against the Schrader valve and lets the water in. The water goes into here to a nozzle, sprays water into the into the air intake, and that helps control combustion and reduces the tendency to knock or ping.
Yep. Cools the mixture and lets it flow out the exhaust and carry some of the heat away.
Actually, it's more than just cooling. There's actually another process. Most people don't understand it, but it's what they call endothermic. In other words,
Endothermic.
when the water goes into the combustion process, the high heat, the initial high heat from the combustion process breaks the water down into hydrogen and oxygen. Well, that absorbs energy, it absorbs heat from the combustion process momentarily, just for a fraction of a second, and that's just enough to slow down the combustion process to reduce the tendency to knock. And it's a principle that was developed in World War II and used on the fighter planes, and that's where I got the idea.
Water injection. What a great car. Had to wait a few years to see it, but here it is.
Yeah.
This is, I imagine, an engine oil cooler.
That's an oil cooler, but it's actually a heat exchanger using water. And I pump water into the crankcase, and I have a heat exchanger in the crankcase. Water circulates through that through a high temperature electric pump, and then through this heat exchanger. But the whole idea for
There's the pump way down there.
the whole idea for the hot water is the propane converter. That converts liquid propane to vapor, and that process needs heat. You have to heat the regulator.
Otherwise it freezes, much
Right.
like carburetor icing.
So I need hot water for the vaporizer to vaporize the fuel. And since I'm on an air-cooled engine, I have to make my own hot water. Yeah, so that's it.
Like a steam Jenny.
Yeah. And this is a mixer. This is a propane vapor. It mixes the propane vapor with the air coming in. Very simple system. There's like one moving part. Very, very simple. And then the air fuel mixture goes through this turbocharger. This is an air research unit. Designed in the 50s. I bought it in the 60s. It's old technology. So it's kind of big, but it has good capacity, and it's been really good for me. I'm kind of emotionally attached to it.
I could just see Tom was here. That's quite the big dump pipe, 3-inch?
Yeah, 3.5 inch.
3.5.
Yep.
I ran my 62 Spider. I'm going to ask you just for a second and let you go back. I ran my 62 Spider with a lightly modified engine, Crown E-Flow stuff I'd bought in the 80s when I was a kid. Straight pipe, said to the fellow building it. No tailpipe, no muffler, just straight tailpipe. And it was noisy, and you heard that turbo scream.
Yeah, when you take the muffler off, the turbo works a lot better.
Oh, I know. And I put a Dynamax or something on it because at 50 miles an hour, it was 2,000. Yeah. Just noisy. Had 5 years of fun. Now this doesn't run a muffler, I would presume.
No, it's a muffler. I've got a Dynamax muffler on there. It's a 3.5 inch core.
Wow, round, much like the early Spiders.
Yeah, that was kind of tough getting it in there.
Yeah, it's not so easy. You know? I made my own muffler bracket out of a late model muffler bracket. I sectioned an extra inch into it to space it. And I got it
here. I used the factory bracket. You know.
I did too. It's not easy because it's at an angle. You got to tilt everything and just to get it right
in there, and then you don't want to bang it against the body. You know. So
it's and you tighten up the clamp. It starts to bend and twist a little bit. Can you fire this thing up? Can we hear the noise that it makes? Propane, running on propane. I think that door handle, I just heard a little squeak there.
Oh, I have to fix that.
That might need a little fluid film. I specialize in greasing things. I live in the nasty north. The northeast. Glad I could make it here today. Crank that baby up. 165 mile an hour Corvair, right here on CORVAIRWILD. Wow, it's that loud. Smell the propane. Oh yeah. Another thing people don't know about propane and natural gas is it burns exceptionally clean.
Yes.
And it might be dirty getting it out of the ground, but when you open up these engines on taxis that I've seen, I used to hang around a taxi garage a long time ago, the engines have 200,000 or 300,000 miles and they'd be spotless inside. Spotless. Yeah, like they hadn't even run. They were worn out, but they hadn't even deteriorated.
You could change your oil maybe once a year or something. Spark plugs, everything lasts longer. The nice thing about propane is that you can store it for 30 years and it's still as good as it was when you put it in the tank. Unlike
gasoline, which we used to go bad after a year or two, now with ethanol after a month or two.
There's no additives, there's no contaminants, it's not diluted with anything, it's pure propane and it's clean.
And you have a tank in the front of the vehicle, a high pressure tank?
I've got, two tanks, they're actually aluminum forklift tanks.
Can we see them? Would you mind?
It's kind of cluttered up in there, you can see it.
You're on the go, it's not a trailer queen.
Yeah.
1965
doesn't have much truck space left. I don't plan to travel with this car.
Oh my. 2 forklift, aluminum forklift tanks.
Yeah, there's 2 of them in there.
They're used in aviation.
Propane. Yeah. Solenoid for LP gas, liquefied
there's
propane.
2 solenoids, so I can switch from one tank to the other. And then I've got this is kind of a minor thing, but I've got solenoids on this end and then I have a solenoid in the back.
Duplicate.
So if they're both off, then the line going between the 2 can develop hydrostatic pressure. There's no vapor in there, it's all liquid. And when it gets hot, it starts expanding, it can get tremendous pressure. So I've got a bleeder line that bleeds off.
To the exterior?
Yeah, back to the tank.
Back to the tank.
Yeah.
Aircraft grade 5 bolt, or grade 8 bolts. Wow. And the gauge is on the tank, there's no internal gauge.
I could put the internal gauges on it, but I just keep track of it.
How many miles could you drive with these tanks, do you think, if you've driven it any distance?
On this car, not very far, but
too much power.
Propane has about 15% less energy than gasoline, and that translates into about a 15% change in gas mileage.
Interesting.
15 to 20%. In my case, it's pretty severe because this is a race car engine. This engine won't idle below 1,500 RPM, and it's designed to run at high speed. So
What cam has it got, or it's your own grind?
It has it has a special grind from Iskandarian. He grinds it for me. Mm-hmm. It's called the 505A. Mm-hmm. It's a 505 Magnum. It's a cam I've used for years and years, and it's really good.
Does the job. Alrighty. Well, thank you for the wonderful interview.
Yeah.
I'm CORVAIRWILD on YouTube. Thank you. Wait, so just to recap slightly, you were racing the 61 in 63,
yeah,
and the 4-bolt 13-inch wheels in the Corvair weren't big enough, so you went to this little gas station, Chevron station,
yeah,
that had a bunch of junk cars in the back, not too many, 30, 40 cars.
Yeah, just
looking
a small
for
junkyard. I'd run 107 miles an hour, actually set the record at Bonneville.
In a 61 Corvair,
61
normally aspirated?
Yep, stock 61, 98 horsepower. Mm-hmm. So I needed bigger wheels. So I went to this junkyard, and I'm looking for a 57, 58 Rambler station wagon.
Only a station wagon, because the wagon had 15-inch 4-bolt, same bolt pattern as the Corvair.
Sedan would have been 14-inch. So I went back
57, 58 Rambler wagon had 14 4-bolt 15-inch wheels. We're talking about the world speed record in 63.
Saab had that. Mine 91. Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah, 4-bolt.
Well, this was in
4.5.
60. This one's 63.
So
I went back
He's running
there,
the 61, 107 miles an hour, needs bigger wheels.
In the dirt, and I see this wheel sticking out halfway from the dirt, and I pull it out, and sure enough, it's full hole. It's 15-inch, but the tire has been sitting out there for who knows how long. It's all weather checked and everything. It's just a terrible looking tire. And I thought, well, there's got to be a Rambler in here somewhere, So I'm looking around, and there it is. There's a Rambler station wagon. There's a big old Buick sitting on the roof, and so I looked on. And there's no other wheels around. No other tires. So I thought, what about the spare? So I couldn't open the door, so I crawled through the open window, and there's all sorts of refuge. Who knows?
Snakes, spiders.
So I'm crawling back there, and I reach back in the darkness, and lift up the, it's under the
cover
floor,
under.
Lift up the cover, and there's a tire in there. I was like, got it. So I jumped back there, and I pulled this thing out. It's like brand new, never on the road. So I took this brand new 15-inch and this beat up old 15-inch, and I paid the guy like $5. I drove back to the Salt, and there was a tailwind blowing. That's why I had to find a bigger tire, because my competitor had gone out and he broke my record. So I put these tires on, but I made sure that the beat up tire was on the right hand side of the car, so the starter wouldn't see it. I mean, it was a rotten tire, I'll tell you. So I put those tires on, and I went out, and I went 113 miles an hour. So I qualified for record too. So both of us went out. The guy's name was Fred Sweetland, I think. He's from Hermosa Beach. And he had a Corvair with Thomas heads and forged through pistons and all the good stuff, and he'd gone 115. So I put those tires on there, and I ran two-way average 109.5.
In a 61 Corvair.
But he went 115, so he got the record. But I don't know why. I mean, it was God's grace that kept that tire from blowing up. Because let me tell you, that tire was absolutely rotten.
That reminds me when I went 140 miles an hour in my 66 Skylark with bald snow tires, racing a Porsche 911. 140. The speedometer was horizontal. It got buried, past 120, disappeared. By the time it came back up, I said, boy, I was going a lot faster than 125.
It's pointing at the right turn arrow.
I was flying. I think I was pointing at the gear shift lever, or maybe at the ashtray.
That was the line in the original Hot Rod Lincoln, twisted the speedometer cable off the end. That was the line in the saw.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Did you ever follow those old Mexican road races?
Oh yeah, the Lincolns.
Yeah, the big Lincolns. Yeah.
Great talking to you. Thank you. We got the Shelby GT350, complete with above standard equipment, $59.50. What would a Cadillac have cost in those days, or a Lincoln, or a Thunderbird?
About that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You're getting a crappy Mustang, Falcon.
Can we just open your door?
Sure.
I'm going to show this guy.
Then we've got a Corvair Turbo SS by TV Tom Keosababian, the man standing right here. Great. Corvair Corsa Coupe with Keosababian prepared, air-cooled 164 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine featuring Garrett T9 turbo. Still on there. Still on there. Carter AFB aluminum 4-barrel with Isky 505 cam and water injection. Wastegate provides adjustable boost up to 20 pounds. Zora Arcus was impressed with that. Quick steering blocks with 16:1 ratio, standard 9.5-inch drum brakes equipped with velvet touch Metallic brakes would provide improved braking performance at high speeds. Shortened front and rear springs provide lower riding height. Coney adjustable shocks add stability on twisting roads. Corvair blue streak tires are mounted on 13 by 7 inch wheels. Rear axle 327. Corvair Turbo SS races Shelby GT500 and wins at the half-mile drags. 0 to 60, 4.9, 0 to 100, 12.5, 80 to 100, fourth gear, 4.5, standing quarter mile, 13.4, standing quarter mile per hour, 106, standing half mile, 132, top speed, 140, top speed in the Bonneville, 160 miles per hour. Wowzer.
Yeah, this is at Riverside at the half-mile drags. This guy bought a brand new Shelby GT500, brand new. I just left him behind.
He smoked them, and you smoked them.
Yeah.
He smoked him and he smoked him.
Right, well he smoked them, and he smoked him.
Yeah, he fried the tires.
Oh, this is great. We should wander over and see the trucks lining up here. Looks like they're either going to have a tractor pull or something. Yeah, really. All right, we've chatted with Mr. Keosababian, Mr. Corvair land speed record holder. Amazing to meet him more than 30 years after the date that never happened. Same car. The badge right there. Land speed record holder? Can't read that badge. Southern California Timing Association.